And thank you very much for being here for the very interesting day yesterday. First of all, a few practical things, bit of information. We now have the morning session here until 11:30, and at 11:30 we will be transported to the coastal steamer Hurtigruta, where we will have lunch. I hope everybody has checked out. If you haven't, then make sure that you have checked out by the time we finish here. I think there is a small coffee break, or you can sneak out or whatever to sort out your checking out business. And at 11:30, if you can take your luggage and leave it on the blue bus. There will be 3 buses taking us to the Hurtigruta, but the blue bus will then be going on to Vardø, so you don't have to worry about your luggage on the steamer. Take whatever you need for the trip and leave everything else, and the bus will then meet us in Vardø. You don't have to worry about your luggage. The blue bus for the luggage. Lunch on the boat is at 12 o'clock. and then the boat leaves at 12:30 sharp for Vardø. The trip takes about 3.5 hours, and the program on the boat, we have a room reserved for the conference, and the conference continues on the boat then after lunch. The program continues at 2 o'clock on the boat with the session introducing Vardø. And there'll be more information about activities for the rest of the day and so on given on the boat. The session this morning here is called The Challenges of the Urban Landscape. And the format will be the same as yesterday. Will be the opportunity to ask questions after each speaker, and we'll have a short discussion after 2 or 3 speakers have finished. So the first part this morning, Challenges of the Urban Landscape, is called Living Centers. And our first speaker is Mr. Øyvind Sundqvist. Is he here? Yeah.
I am.
You have to come up and get your klave, your equipment. So Øyvind Sundqvist is head of the planning department of Hammerfest municipality, and he will introduce us to the formidable challenges that face the planners of a region that's really just waking up to a second reconstruction with the oil and gas exploration that has hurled Hammerfest and other municipalities really headfirst into the 21st century. So welcome to Øyvind Sundqvist.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Very good. Yeah, my name is Øyvind Sundqvist, as has been said here. I'm head of a small planning department in Hammerfest municipality. We have 4 people, 1 chief and 3 slaves, as I call them. We've had big plans, a lot of things going on, as you will see now, a lot of things going on in Hammerfest. I would like to introduce by saying that we are 3 now, but one is moving, so we have a job in Hammerfest. So somebody here might be interested in that. Thought I would just mention it. Forget about the slave thing. I'll call this lecture the second reconstruction. You know, we had a reconstruction time after 1944 or 45 when the city was burned, and we are now sort of into our second reconstruction. You can see further on why I've called it that. Can we plan for the next 12 years based on the past 12 years? I'm not sure in the case of Hammerfest actually, because I think it's quite special. Hammerfest is a small town, and when you get something that happens, well, a big company that establishes themselves there, the consequences are noticed much more than if Statoil were to put a plant up in Oslo, for example. You wouldn't get the sort of wouldn't be so noticeable. It wouldn't be so visual that happening there. I call this the story of Hammerfest is about pulse, and when I'm thinking of pulse, I'm thinking that you have periods of growth and your periods of decline. It follows a pattern. You can see it here. The tone of catastrophes and recovery. This pulse is something, I think it is actually more a pulse of the Western world than just a pulse of Hammerfest, because you can see that there are major happenings that are sort of making this pulse go. Like in 1945, everybody knows what happened there. You have the First World War there, decline there. And you have around 1970, you have the Biafra crisis that sort of pulled the markets for the fish away. This year ends in 2002. This pulse here. It was part of. It was made as a part of a project led by quite a few architects that came to Hammerfest to see what could be done in Hammerfest. We are a town that is sort of captured between the mountain and the sea, and we have always said that we lack areas, we lack space, because we are captured between the sea and the mountain. This was not what these architects found. But as you see here, the arrows in the end, we don't know. In 2002, we didn't know which way these arrows would go. Would it go down? Would it go on like before, or would it increase? Yeah. This is a picture of, or three pictures of Hammerfest. You can see now Melkare with the flames out there. You can see. Oh. You can see Storvanna, big lake that is in the town, just in the back of the town. And you have the city center that is sort of between the sea and this Storvanna. You also have the Hestskoglocka, the horseshoe building, quite famous building there. Some say it's a nice building, other people hate it. So I suppose that is what architecture is about. Well, you can see here that it's sort of a polar suburbia to a multi-energy town. This part down here at the right, where you can see small parts of the city is sort of taken out. This was a fishing factory called Findus. And that was the backbone of the city from the 50s and all the way to the 80s, end of the 80s. You had this big decline in the 70s. But in the 60s, this was sort of it was the old Melkare. This was industry coming into town, and they had almost 2,000 workers there. When I came to Hammerfest in the late 90s, nobody was actually working there. It was shut down, and it got tore down also. So this is a major part of the city center that was just torn down. Well, what the architects in 2002 found was that it was actually quite a lot of emptiness in Hammerfest, empty spaces. I think they were right, actually. I think we used to say that we didn't have any space, any areas that could be built, but we could actually tidy up quite a bit and we'll make areas. Areas that was not exploited in a good way. Lots of that, especially on Fuglenäs, the nest that you see pointing out there. The city center is, for those who are not well known in Hammerfest, the city center is here, around this bay here. This makes Hammerfest quite a dense town, and you can see the city center from everywhere. If you're walking down here, you can see into the city center. So you have a quite dense and visual city center. This is the plan for the center, the city center, and that was the plan in 2002 also. So the building in the city center has followed this path. We are now making a new plan for the city center. I think next year we're starting with that, which is very interesting work. And this is development in the population that was actually, this is what happened. You can see 2002 there, and you can see that population increases quite a lot. And we got over sort of the magical 10,000 line. We had 10,000 inhabitants in the 10th of October 2013. And this is, of course, why this happened, why we didn't have a decline, or why it didn't go on like it used to be. I think Hammerfest without Snøhvit LNG would be a very different story from what we're seeing now. I think maybe we would be 5, maybe 6,000 people living in Hammerfest now, while we are actually now more than 10,000. So we got this flood actually. This is sort of a metaphor for an economic flood. Hammerfest was heavily influenced by what was happening on Melkøya. This is a plan, the need for area that Statoil had. They haven't built this area here, the C10 and B10. Melkøya is still an island, but they are making plans now as we speak for the area at the right there. Almost 2 kilometers of industry area, and also buildings and different things going on there. Gas plants, they are planning stuff. This is also something that happened. We had the LNG, that's gas. Melkøya is about liquid natural gas. But it was also found oil there. And a company called Eni, an Italian petroleum company, they came to Hammerfest, and they are starting up now with exploiting oil from the Goliath field. The Goliath field is, you can see Hammerfest is here, you know, and the Goliath field is out here, and the Snøhvit is around here. These are the gas fields. Goliath is, they had demands from the state that they should electrify. They couldn't make a gas plant to make electricity, so they had to build an electric cable that goes from Hammerfest out to the field there. A very big project actually to put the cable like that. It's dug down into the sea base, and it came in one piece. I think it's at least 10 kilometers long, and it comes in one piece and it's put down with a boat. So it's a very big project. But I think the Eni people have thought that if we build this electricity cable out to the ocean, when other people other companies find oil or something to exploit around there, they can connect themselves to this cable. And the price on the electricity out here might be quite high. I think that is sort of what they are thinking. But it's actually it's almost 1 billion kroner to make this cable. So it's a big project. They have to have a transformer building at Hyggevannet, also at the land. Because of all this going on, we need more electricity to Hammerfest. So it has planning to build a 420 kilovolt electricity what's it called? Electricity line from Balsfjord to Hammerfest. Also a very big project that Statnett is doing. And we have changed from. We used to be called, or call ourselves, the town of trade, Handelsbyen. And now we are Energibyen, the town of energy. We've just been that for 10 years, so we'll see how long this lasts. Maybe we have to find some other name. These are some of the things that are being built now at this the space that you saw that was taken out, the sort of emptiness in the city center. This is the cultural building, Aquas Cultural Center, that has been built. And this new smart hotel is being built now. It's 10 stories high, so it's not a common building in Denmark to see. We in the administration were very skeptical to this building because it's sort of a wall that stands in the town, dividing one part of the town from another. But still, it was said that we had a lot of emptiness in the town, and that is true in one sense, but we also have quite a high demand on the areas. So to build high is obviously an economic advantage. So it was, this was actually, in the regulation plan, this was, they were allowed to build a 40, over 40 meters high, but they didn't do that. I think it's 36 as the thing that is being built now. We're also making a Strandpromenade, a promenade all the way from the city square and past these buildings, which should start now. Actually, it was meant to start in May, but because of the Arctic race, the bicycle run, we couldn't start building it because it would conflict with the bicycles. So they were supposed to start now, but then we had this boycott, you know, from Russia, conflict between Russia and Ukraine, and we want to have Sibirsk black from Siberia, and we can't get that now because the Russians are not selling it anymore. So that's also something that is hard to plan for. And we have this plan for the main square. This is actually out on Dauphin now, projectering. I don't know. We have to estimate what costs this house. And this is out on Dauphin now, so architects can apply for that. They want to. Quite interesting thing. The main plaza has been, or it doesn't look good at all. It's been a parking place actually, and it's quite big. And we have made a plan to sort of decrease it and make it more functional and get the cars out. It's a big job. And this is what Hammerfest used to look like 12 years ago. This whole thing was torn down, this fishing factory. And this is what it's going to look like now. It's starting to look like now. Most of these buildings are built now. So the change is quite obvious. We also had, because of, as you saw, Melkøya is in one end of the town. So all the traffic that's going to Melkøya has to pass through the city center. This was something that Hammerfest was not prepared for at all. So we had to build new roads, and new pedestrian areas. The whole city center had to be upgraded. This is now done, and we have heating in all the pavements and new lighting. It looks very good actually. We also, because of this this fact, are planning now a new road in Hammerfest through the mountains. Two or actually 3 tunnels. You see 2 here, going through the Sal mountain and out here on Elvetun, and then into another tunnel down here. This is something we have to do because, for example, the airport is over here now and the hospital is here. So if something happens along here, across the road here, the fire department also is here. So if something happens along this road, this will be cut off completely. So we need another road, another access to through the town. Today we will have to make ferries or something across the bay. We also 10 years ago, it was allowed to park everywhere in Hammerfest. It was free parking and no parking personnel. So this caused chaos, actually, in the center. So we had to make a new parking strategy, and we are now getting rid of all the free parking spaces. And we are also we're also planning for a parking space inside the mountain, the Sal mountain, like in Tromsø. You've probably seen it in Tromsø also. You can also see here the tunnels going through the Sal mountain. And this is an old sketch. This here is the red roundabout is not being built. This here is what we are going for. And into tunnel here. New building areas. This is Utfjord Marina. This 150 units we're building. This has not been built yet. It's just planned. This is Storsvingen, 200 buildings. This is being built now. Some of the houses have come up now. And we have Mellombanen. This is up on near the airport, and it's quite windy there. This is quite a special project. We call it the Klimafelt, a sort of field that is climatically shaped. And the wind comes from this direction and blows over there, and this is sort of the main wind direction. And we're building a small wall here, and I've made this field higher, so that wind will come here and lift the snow out here and over to this side. This is the plan for the field. We have some other climatic fields in Hammerfest, but this is the new one that we have made together with Husbanken. And this is being built now, and it will be very interesting to see if this will actually work, our thoughts here. And this is Stornes. It's also another area. I think it's much more than 34 units there. The tanks are now brought down, and we are beginning to make plans for apartments there also. And we had to do something about the schools. The schools were totally almost falling down. And this is a project that back there was interested in Australia. And it's also followed the lighting plan for Hammerfest. We have a plan for outdoor lighting in the whole municipality, and this here is what we wanted to look like. And these are the benches out in Breilia. We used to have a lot of problems in this school before we did this. A lot of things getting torn down, and broken glass and everything. Now that has completely stopped, and the pupils there are very happy with it. I think it functions very, very well. New lighting for the church and city center. We also, because of all this has happened, we have planned a new airport in Hammerfest. We need that. I think there are two things actually that will decides if a place is going to grow or decline. And I think the two main things that a place needs to have is an airport and a university, or at least schools of some kind. We have an airport today, but it's too small. It was built in the 50s when we had a totally different kind of aeroplanes flying. Today we have 15 flights just from Tromsø to Hammerfest, and we have I think it's 60 helicopter flights every day. So this has increased enormously, and the airport is based quite centrally in the city center, and we don't have space actually to have an airport there. So we made plans for a new airport, and this is a big project, very interesting to work with, but a whole set of regulations that I've never seen before. The same aspects of an airport. Well, it's the same if you want to build it in Hammerfest or if you want to build it in Istanbul, for example. It would be the same regulations that decides whether you can find an area to build an airport or not. And it's very hard to find in Finnmark. It's very hard to find a space where you can put an airport. We think we found it, and we have made plans for it. We actually have promises from the politicians that it will be built. This is a 2,000-meter version, and this is sort of the outline of what it's going to look like. We had a company called Nordkalottsymposium to draw this, and the terminal building you can see in the front there. The thing there was it's supposed to resemble waves, because we are sort of living close to the sea, and the sea has always been the backbone of people there. It's what we live off. Now it's oil and gas and also fish, but it used to be fish. The sea is always very important in Finnmark generally. Well, it's just enough. And we need new industry areas. This here is Nordkalottsymposium and Ulenes. Nordkalottsymposium here is something that we have plans for now and we are developing. Ulenes is just near Melkøya. We don't have good plans for this at the moment, but this is Polarbase. This is being built now 3 kilometers out here. It's filling into the sea over here. It's going to be huge. It's quite huge today actually. This used to be islands. This here. This used to be one island, and this used to be one island. This is just filling all of this. And we have the fourth one. This is Strømsnes. We are going to start planning this now. Polarbase is here, so the whole area here will be an industry area with housing here and industry here. This is the plan that we're working on now. But we also have plans for Storman, the sort of smaller things that we need to upgrade the spaces that people use in their daily life. This is going on a plan that back goal for us. I was thinking just of trends that we see, because I was going to talk about the last 12 years and maybe the next 12 years. Because the next 12 years it's harder to talk about. We don't know what's happening, but I think some trends we can see, like climate change, for example. So now that August is the warmest month that has ever been, or the warmest August that has ever been measured in Norway. And it seems quite obvious that climate changes are coming, and that they are increasing. This would mean more rain and more snow in Hammerfest, and also more days with temperatures around 0 degrees, which means more ice actually. because you get the snow that melts when it gets above zero and it freezes again below zero. So you get the building rise. This is something that we are planning for. I think also the city center, we are going to make a new plan for the city center, and I think that we have to think quite new about the city center. The internet trade, for example, is something that is affecting the center. The way that people use cafes, for example, is also something that is affecting it. So I think we have to think new of the whole thing and have different things in the center that we didn't used to have. We're now putting homes for elderly people into the center. Those were usually put outside. Center. I think that is the correct thing actually to do. I'm not sure, but I think so. And also, people expect houses with higher standards than they used to. The standard of houses in Hammerfest was quite low. It has become bigger, much higher. And people move. That is why we're building an airport. And people want to know that they can get from Hammerfest and back to Hammerfest quite rapidly. They don't have to drive for hours through snow and sleet, and they can go to the airport and get away and come back. I think that is a very important thing. And of course, the larger cities get larger, and the small cities get smaller, unless you have an airport and a university. Like Tromsø. And of course the megatrends that has been mentioned yesterday. I think this is also, I was thinking maybe I shouldn't mention it because a lot of people talked about it yesterday, but still it is a very important thing, I think. The climate changes are going on, and the ships are going to go through the Northeast Passage. Now that means that the trade from USA to Asia and Europe and Asia will pass just outside here. As you saw, we have these industry areas that we are planning, these harbor areas. And it is partly because we are thinking of this, but I think also that it could be useful to have large harbor areas in the future. And then just a reminder of why we live here, where we live. It's not just gas and oil and industry, but it's also very nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Øyvind Sundqvist from Hammerfest. Our next speaker is from Finland. Oh,
better? Yeah. Thank you very much to Øyvind Sundqvist, and our next speaker is Eva Persson Purula from Finland. She's an architect and planning with the Finnish consulting group. And she's responsible for the planning and development of Levi, a ski resort town in northern Finland. And Levi is an example of Finnish regional planning, which is significantly different from planning policies elsewhere in the northern region. You'll tell us about it. Thank you very much.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Yes, thank you. Where do we have it? Excuse me, where do we have my thing here? Okay, a little bit of trouble here, but I did have my memory stick with me. Yes. I'm going to have a quite short presentation about one example of living centers, in this case the living ski resort center. And a few words about myself. I am a Swedish architect. I moved to from the very south of Sweden, Skåne, to the very north of Finland in 1991. And at the same time I changed fields from building architect for building renovations and into the realm of land use planning. And I have had the interesting times and privilege of doing land use planning in Finnish Lapland ever since. It's more than 20 years now. And one of the very first works was when we began this planning of levy center and issue. And you noticed on the very first picture there were people in the picture. This is another picture. You can also see people are going there. It is a functioning living center, I dare say. Of course, it's one of the biggest skiing centers in northern Finland, and we are very pleased to see now, more or less 20 years later, when it is almost completed, so we see the fruits of our work. When working with land use planning, you have to wait a long time before you see the result. Here we have some more very nice pictures. These are Mats Vinsa's pictures taken last year when we had our meeting preparing for this seminar. You can also see this urban qualities of this city center, ski resort center. Here's some more very nice pictures. We have these axes orienting in different directions. There were people in those pictures too, you noticed. And here we have also one of Mats' pictures from up the ski slope. You look down over the area, and you can see that it is quite dense. And you can also see that that the color schemes is very restricted. In short, the topics I will address the challenges of urban landscaping in tourist centers shortly. What I'm going to show is a land use planning example of rather a detailed plan. We have been talking about the broad perspectives and land use planning for big areas. This is an example of a very small piece of land and a detailed plan. There's a lot to say about the regional planning around the levees and the ski resort, but I will concentrate on the topic of this living center. Also, I will mention the building guidelines that we have developed for levy center, which are a prerequisite for having the qualities that we are looking for in this center. And I shortly go through the planning process, which has been long. It started in the 90s, and it is still going on today, actually. And finally, something about the lessons learned about this. When you talk about the challenges of the urban landscape, the tourist centers have their own special needs. often they are built in the middle of nowhere without the support of any existing village or town. And of course, the seasonal changes is a challenge for all tourist centers, especially the ski resort centers who have their high seasons around Christmas and around Easter time, and there are quite a few. There are a few very dead periods, so to speak, and they are all working towards the goal of finding different activities and attractions to make it more around the year attractive for tourists. Many tourist centers have a very spread out building, and they lack any kind of urban density. Many also lack any kind of architectural quality, I could say. And in the urban spread, it is often very difficult to find any particular center. There is often a lack of coherence in building style, and identity and image is something that is built perhaps not so much on the qualities of the built environment. It's more other attractions. And when you talk about the challenges of land use planning, then we have the micro and the macro, and I have been doing the micro here with and thinking about what do we need to make the levy center such that it is almost an attraction in itself. Especially we were clear that some kind of building guidelines were needed, and the question of course is, are we going to force people to build in a certain way, or are we going to hope that they build in the right way? Of course, the prerequisite of any good planning is a good cooperation with landowners, developers, the municipality, of course, and different authorities, land use planning authorities. Challenges of tourism are manifold. This is a happy picture from when there was the World Cup competitions in the 2006. They have world competitions arranged quite often, actually, recently too. And when it happens, they are building these temporary arrangements, and you can certainly say that Levi is a living tourist center during these days. There are many happy moments. And from this nice pictures, we go back to this map, our maps. That I love this map where we put the world upside down, and I have marked the Levi ski center for you on this map. It is it's not so far away from Kirkenes, I think, and it is in the middle here of our Nordkalott region. As are the other big ski tourist resorts in northern Finnish, in the Finnish Lapland. I have a conventional map right beside here to make it a little easier to see, orientate. So you see also the town of Rovaniemi marked out on the little map, which happens to be the town where I have been living for over 20 years and been working. Here we have a map. First, you can see where the tourist centers in Finnish Lapland are. We have Saariselkä, Levi, Ylläs, Pallas, Pyhäluosto, Sallatunturi, Suomu. All these are ski resorts, and also Kemi-Tornio and Rovaniemi as towns are also tourist centers of its own kind. On the bigger map, you can see the Levi-Tunturi area. It consists of the Levi Fell, which is the developed area with quite a lot of ski slopes and a lot of building areas. Katkatunturi is its twin fell, and it is they have made a decision that it will not be touched. It shall be stay in a natural state. And the landowners on Katkatunturi are not so happy about this decision, but it is a good decision to have this, to keep the natural environment in one place and concentrate the development on another place. And the two, of course, work together. There are hiking tours, ski tours on Katkatunturi, and which are a resource for this whole area. I also mentioned that the Onas River is going by here, goes on this side. And like I mentioned, it is one of the rivers that are left in a natural state. There is no water turbines and such in this river. It's one of the few that are left. Here we have a other map of the levy center area, and as you can see, there is built a ring road around the whole area, and this is all quite spread out cottage building. You can also see the golf course, by the way. This is for summer activities, and the levy center is placed right here by the main north slope. Here we have the combined land use plan, the detailed land use plan of the levy area. And as you can see, it is very extensive, and it has been the land use planning of levy has started in '77, and it is still going on today. I was engaged in '91 when we came to this place and to Finland. Here we have a blow up of the actual levy center, so you can see this system with paths and squares and nodes. You can also see the center was also redone. Here you see that it's very tight. We have designated areas for where you can put your buildings, where you can put your parking, and the rest is supposed to be left in a natural state, more or less at least. This is a chapel, one place for the chapel, which we were happy to put in the plan and which has been built. Here we have examples of the building guidelines. We also made some drawings, and well, the developers took my little drawings and they actually built just as I had thought they would. I'm very happy to say they are. Now this on the land use plan we have this mark, which means you have to build to this line. We have narrow streets. They are only 8 meters wide. We can't make them any smaller, but even if we would like to, it's because of the fire regulations. Here we have some more examples. We had compulsory building guidelines to use only stone for the first floor and wood, prefer dark brown for the second floor. And the first buildings, they were indeed like this. We actually found some inspiration from the Swiss Alps for Zermatt, which on the other hand is an existing village with existing tradition. Here you see the quality of the center with people in the pictures. Here we have maybe the latest buildings where we have a little different guidelines again. This was our vision in 1992 when still nothing was built. This is what it looks like today. This actually looks like we thought it would. We are very pleased with the results. And lessons learned, yes, it is possible to create new urban living centers, but tourist areas, they do need tightness. They need a tight living functional center. And detailed land use planning, it is a good development tool. It is possible but we do need building guidelines too, and they have to be compulsory, otherwise we do not get the result we need. And we need a very limited amount of materials and colors. It's a little bit like in the olden days, there were not so many materials and colors available. Today we can do anything, so we have to limit the choices through land use planning and building guidelines. And I think these narrow pedestrian streets and public spaces is the key factor to having a good urban environment, also in a new skiing areas. And also finally in Levi, which is in Kittilä municipality, we did have the happy thing that we had a ambitious and dedicated municipality, and they wanted us to make good plans, and we did, I think, what they wanted. We did also what we wanted. We are very pleased with the results. And so we can say, yes, it is so that good results come from working towards the same goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have a quick question for Eva Furman, please?
Yesterday we were discussing a bit this with who has the responsibility for the built environment, and you said that this was a cooperation between the municipality and private. To what degree has the private pulling strings to get this through?
The private has, in Levi, there is one major developer who has very great interest in developing the whole of Levi area. They have developed the ski slopes and all this ski resort infrastructure and such. And then, of course, the people living, the landowners in this Levi center, they have, of course, their own interests too. And they have made very nice profits, I can say, from this land use plan. But the driving force here was the municipality, without doubt. And Levi is special in this way. I think Kittilä municipality is one of the most aware municipalities. That they have a will, and they will get their consultant firms to do this. So it is not. The initiative and the drive has come from the municipality in this case.
Thank you. Okay. Our next speaker is Gudrun Åström. Gudrun Åström is the town architect of Piteå municipality in northern Sweden. And she's also a member of the board of the Swedish Association of Architects. She will tell us about the Norrbotten coast and the towns of Piteå and Luleå and the development of northern Sweden from a coastal perspective. Yes. Gudrun Åström.
Do you hear me now? Now you hear me, yes. Well, nice to be here. I will take you on a very quick and brief journey along the coast of the Botnian Gulf. And the Botnian Gulf is not dramatic. It is considered as the light and low coast, and the water in between sugar and salt is very soft. The landscape is still uplifted, and myself, I'm from a village in between Haparanda and Luleå called Kalix, and there is a story about inhabitants from Kalix that a question is, why do they never take a bath? And the answer is, they are so slow that the uplifting of the soil is quicker. So let's see if I can make this in 5 minutes. Three small towns, Torneå, Haparanda, Luleå, and Piteå. And historically, Torneå was the biggest one, and the best connections up to the north were to trade with this fish and fur. And in 1621, the Swedish king Gustav Adolf decided to give rights of township to those countries, to those towns, in order to be able to tax them. And we start in Haparanda, and I hope Mats, you will help me with some names. Yes. Do we have something to? No. Yeah. Yes, I take this with me, of course. Thank you, Nils. No. Stop that. It was the wrong one. Yeah. I think you all know, perhaps you know, Haparanda and Torneå. And in 1809, when the war between Russia and Sweden, the border was placed here, and the town Torneå, the old town, became on the Finnish side, and a new town was created here, Haparanda, in 1826. And what's going on? We got this new etablishment of IKEA and a lot of trade companies, and they've taken the best part here, of course, and this gulf of the town is now filled with and planned for different traffic jam. And in the middle of this is just finished the new travel center, and I think it's Mats Jakobsson from MIF in Luleå, together with some Finnish architects.
No, it's a Stockholm architect.
It's a Stockholm.
Anders Lindberg. Yes.
Yeah, and it's situated just in between the two small towns, and it's a wasteland of nothing, emptiness, and I think there is a very huge challenge for Torneå and Haparanda to put together these two towns, which is the goal for the planning. Historically, it's wooden buildings, and I suppose some of you, older like me, recognize this picture. It's from a work done by Nordic architect students in late 70s, when they inventoried wooden buildings in all Nordic countries. And this is a picture of Haparanda, the beautiful square, and here we have this building. It still exists, the Hermanssons Handelsgården, and mostly of all of that wooden buildings is not existing today. This is from Torneå, the main street, and still some buildings left, and new ones, I think, rather nicely done in scale. And when I'm talking with students, I often ask them, what town is this? It's an old Swedish town. And no one had ever guessed what town it is. And if you turn around, you see this view, and I ask them, why is it like this? And they don't know. And they don't know that all this area of Tornio was totally destroyed during the war. So this is two pictures from a summer day, and in 1914, during the First World War, Haparanda had a great time because of the railway was still open, the borders were still open here when they were closed down in Europe. So it's a little bit like people talked about yesterday, that the borders up here been open and further south they are closed. And this Haparanda tries to work with this outlifted town. It's all companies are moving out to IKEA, and empty windows everywhere in the old town. So it's a very, very big challenge for both Haparanda and Tornio to survive. Øyvind talked about schools, and a very positive thing happened some years ago in Haparanda, a new building built by Mats Jakobsson, Swedish architect, MAF in Luleå. It's the House Minerva. All participants of the seminar on the border in 2009 recognized it because we had breakfast there. And I asked Mats just 2 days ago when I met him about the concept of the building. What were you thinking of? And he said, I wanted the new and the old to reflect each other. And it's just beside the city hotel that we saw in the previous picture. It's the very beautiful building of the Sverigefinska Folkhögskolan, as we see it reflected in those pictures. And this building got our local architecture prize in 2006. And it was a suggestion from Mats Vinsa that we should have this kind of competition each 2 years. And it's been a very good idea because we become aware of what good is built up in the region. Now we take a step to Luleå. And Luleå is a peninsula in the Luleå River, just surrounded by water, and everywhere where you live in Luleå you get water around you. Very important for the development of Luleå was the establishment in 1967 of the Nordkalottsymposium. And it marks the end of the tearing down area. It was located in some old coal magazines, and the architect is a very well-known local architect, Hans Tersén. And the sculpture has become like a sign for the theater. It's created by Erling Johansson, a well-known artist from a little village called Sarvisvara, but living in Paris. And very interesting also that when building this Norrbottensteatern, Hans Tersén also made a quay. And the waterfront hadn't been available for pedestrian and to people earlier. It was just industrial area and and cars everywhere. 40 years later, in 2006, on the other side of where this picture is taken from is the cultural building, the cultural hall. And this has been the most, this is the building that, together with the university, makes the biggest difference. And Hans Tischen, also this time architect, is taking the red wood, the inspiration from vernacular architecture, and it's become like a lamp of. You can help me and fill in the Mats if you want.
It's the most important building in Luleå. It had made a new center, the new node. And for instance, the library had more than 3 times more visitors than before. It's a total success. The culture in the middle of the town.
And it was the former mayor of Luleå, Carl Peter Schein. He's a social democrat, and there was a lot of resistance from his own party, and he invested all his respect in this building, and it's a total success. And from inside is the library and 2 concert halls, a big one and a small one. And it's like a fire for culture in the town. It also meant that the cave was continued, and I think there's a general experience working as a landscape architect that is that if you have a house that cost 400 million, that was the roof of the cost in this culture house project, then 10 million for outdoor suggestions is not so high, but to get 10 millions when there is no house built, it's almost impossible. So I think Sofia sitting there, she has worked with this. She's not very content because the municipality, they took away a lot because of the money, but still it's the whole difference that it was made, although it's not perfect. This is not a star architecture, but it is functioning and it's make the town livable. Yeah.
This is the northern harbor of Luleå.
Yeah.
As you know, because of our summer life, the northern is the most important direction.
Yeah.
And there is a floating bar also there, and it's quite a lot of.
Did we see it?
In the summer.
Yeah, just a part of it.
So.
And this walking path around the peninsula, it became the living room of the inhabitants in Luleå. And whenever you go out, night or day, summer or winter, you can see people out running and walking and playing and all that kind of activities. And also in winter time, the municipality has worked very well, and I've been working with this kind of project too, to have the iceway around the peninsula. And in more winter, perhaps one of them, in the context of living in the north, more winter, spring, winter is one of the reasons why we live up in the north. Isn't that so? Emotion, other experience of being a landscape architect. People like to be in motion, and I think simple places that emit motion perhaps is more important than to make very elegant places. Luleå has been working a lot with identity as a winter city, and we have these beautiful animals each year. If not, climate change make it impossible. Now the time when the animals is in park is shorter. The newest contribution to town is try to narrow the distance between the university and the town. University is situated outside, like most universities from the 70s. It's the House of Science, and it immediately also became very popular. It's in the old, beautiful postal building. Important with Luleå also is the municipality housing company, Lulebo, and they worked a lot with rehabilitation of residential areas. And this Tuna is the worst, considered as the worst, and was very worn. And this is just a picture from the park. I worked with it myself, and people from the south perhaps recognize the ideas from Vasaparken in Stockholm, beautiful park. I'm not stolen it, I've just been inspired. And this is another built area, Kallkällan, and I've been working it myself with the architect Jette Andersen, Danish architect living in Luleå since 35 years. And this one also, believe it or not, won the local architect prize last year. And in competition with this, the Konstnärligt campus, art campus in Umeå, which was one of the other participants in the competition. And this is something that you talked about yesterday. It's just a little bit down the river in Umeå. It's the new architect school and the new Bildmuseum, art museum, and it's a building with offices and white in cooperation with the Henning Larsen architects. They are having their office there. Now we are short in time. In Piteå, where I work, we have had a competition about the new parking house, and it was won by exactly that team, White and Henning Larsen. And it's under construction, and it will be finished in Christmas almost. And parking is not fun, but the suggestion is to give something back to the town. So it's a roof that is available like the opera in Oslo. But here's a park and some wooden steps. And it's perhaps a new meeting point in Piteå, also in mid times. And we just now work a lot with the rest. Piteå is not as potent as Luleå when it comes to sunlight. The sun disappears rather quickly, but this new parking house called the City Mountain, the City Mountain, yeah, City Mountain is the name, and it will be the sunniest place in Piteå, even in evenings. And just now we are working with the rest of the block what will become of it. And this is 2 of 5 different alternatives. And Piteå, where I work, is a very self-confident town. It has a very beautiful square and the first pedestrian walk in Sweden, 1961. I'm very proud of that. And they have some food they like very much and eat 3 or 4 times a week. Palt. Very important. I think we just have a quick look on this. And we have some other projects ongoing. This is a family with lots of money from oil. They import oil to the whole of Norrbotten, and they own a block with a galleria, and they want to double it. So we have this discussion about high houses also in Piteå. And this is some pictures of how the project have developed. In the beginning it was wooden, and this is later on it's an illustration from the regulation plan, and then it became simpler, and when it came to Byggelov, this came. It's a new modernistic black and white creation, and we said, well, wasn't that the thought that you should be using wood? So now the latest version is this one, and it's concrete decorated with wood, and I would prefer it was a truly wooden building. So I don't know where it will end up. And I heard you from Piteå, so you can very freely give a commentary on this. What do you think about?
No, I think maybe the comments will have to
Yeah,
go
okay.
further.
Yeah, well, we've made some studies about what high buildings means in Piteå. And the challenge in Piteå is much how to preserve the old town that everybody loves, and to develop it at the same time. Everybody wants to be in the middle of the town. Piteå, they want to develop, and we have a goal that in 2020 we have 2,000 more inhabitants. But to conclusion, most important, this picture is because of naturally many of you from northern Norway have been in Piteå, because in summer times, all summer cottages, we have nearly 4,000 is from Norwegians coming to have warmth and taking a bath. But if climate change makes it's possible perhaps you move back to Hammerfest. No, but most important, livable cities where people are feeling good need good places outdoor and places to meet. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Gudrun Holström and the other planners for showing us their work and their communities. Eva Persson Kurunen from Finland and Øyvind Sundqvist from Norway. We have unfortunately no time for panel dialogue. We're very tight schedule this morning because the coastal steamer will not wait for us. So there is no chance of overrunning. We have almost no time for a break, but you can have 2 minutes to go and get the coffee before we reconvene for the next session. The next session will be chaired by Mats Winstad from Sweden, and so I will leave you in his hands, and thank you very much.
things that will stand for hundreds of years. So it's inevitably part of future. It's actually part of a projected history into the future. And if we value the end result, then all the ordinary circumstances and all the minor problems and discussions we might have towards that end result is in fact not so important. We will all be long gone when these buildings and urban plans are still in use. So the point is then to be very, very conscious about the vision, the final vision, and the idea that drives the process, rather than the process driving something that really end up in an end result that nobody had really a clear idea about. The things that got us started, I think, is the first of all the context. This is a storage building from Piteå in 1662, and it's a very interesting building in the way that it sort of connects everything that is important in architecture. It's a building that's very clear about where it's placed, why it's placed over here, because it's dry. It's sort of coming straight out of the forest it's placed in. And you can also feel yet that there has been some kind of joy and sort of care and interest in the material quality and also in the expression. So it's a combination of being very, very straightforward and direct, and yet having something that is out of just the ordinary. And if that was context and craft and material presence, architecture is also something else. It's about how we connect the simple functionality to the use of a building and the spatial experience. In our office, Martin and I have come to describe this as the operative elements of architecture. That would be defined as what makes a difference, so that when you work on a design, you don't end up thinking about all the small things that in fact are just design gratuit, as they say in French. When you're just designing for yourself, it will never actually have an impact on reality. And reality is of course what we work with. That's like the material we're in and that we can use. Today, we are mostly occupied. I would say we spend 70% perhaps of our time in the office working on public buildings, housing projects, planning, museums, educational buildings. But that's not at all how it started. It started and I can just tell you before I show this that I'm not going to present these projects in detail. It's just to give you an idea of what we did. So just the thing that happened was that we came out of school and we started directly because we were very interested in building buildings. We had an idea that architecture would be actually trying out ideas in reality, not just producing ideas and put them in the drawer, or just building without addressing contemporary issues within society on sustainability or economy or whatever it is. And so many of these early small interiors and private houses, they were a way for us to explore, first of all, the different ways of building that we could access in and around Stockholm and Sweden at that time. How could you create the most volume with minimum amount of money and material? And how could you sort of process different ways of building, masonry, wooden structures, concrete into something that would be a building that didn't reveal the fact that it was in fact the cheapest building possible at that time. Some of these issues were then transformed into larger projects, and this one, for instance, is one of several projects that we made in the archipelago, and where the shape of the building is actually directly taken from the site, because the site was had only one flat surface, and it had strange direction in relation to the sun and to the sea. So we decided that rather than taking away the bedrock and the mountain, we would just place the building on that flat surface, so that in 100 years, if the building goes away, nobody could tell that there was a building there. And in fact, that also, of course, connects to the simple kinds of construction that you would find in the countryside or in the archipelago, where there used to be only farmers and fishermen, and that is today mostly used for recreation. Or as in this case, a garden house, as we call it, because the clients actually didn't want a house, they just wanted a garden. They moved from the city to this site, a very strange site, and they told us everything about the garden. So we made a house like a negative space within a garden. Again, this is in the archipelago, and as you can see, there are variations, but very often when it's in the archipelago, there are it's a light construction. Basic principle is that you can carry the pieces from the boat up to the site, because you can't access the site with a truck or heavy loads. And then, of course, there is an exception. This house that was built on an island that actually had car access. So we realized that this was an opportunity to explore how concrete could be used, and to rather have the house as a part of the mineral landscape, the cliffs and the rocks. And from a distance, of course, it's very hard to tell if it's a wooden house, grayish wooden house, old kind of boathouse typology, or if it's concrete. And the operative elements, if you're interested in what makes a difference, then of course our reading of a situation has been where we have tried to make every project as from scratch, as if we didn't know how to build a house, or what a house is about really. And the former one was on a flat island, creating a space of its own. And this one is in a very strange context in China, where there was no context. It's just a desert and a lot of buildings being built at the same time. So we thought we could create some kind of topography that would relate to all that, and be sort of an interior world of its own, and without cardinal directions. So these projects, they sort of derive from a situation that could be the physical reality, or the historical or building history, or the local know-how. And then we won a competition and arrived in a different scale, where buildings, in between private buildings and urban planning, we have sort of a massive field of public buildings that actually are our buildings, our common. We have an ownership of these buildings, which is very, very clear. Also, if you build a building like this in a city park in Kalmar, people will react, and they will sort of get engaged, which is, of course, very, very, very good. And that is also something that could be used. And this is something we used in this project, where we realized that when the important thing here was not the building really, it was actually the idea that this main museum in Sweden moved to Malmö. So this building is actually a 90% reconstruction and then a new part. It's more like a needle on a map than a building in its own right. It sort of changes the balance within the city. It creates a new node. And so through these public buildings, we've also, we still make the small buildings. We do project design, and we have also moved into educational buildings, like this one. It's an electron microscope. It's one of the most advanced microscopes, also a bit of a context. A building without a context in a way, because it's all about, it's the first building we built for a machine rather than for persons. And this is a nursery school. Also, I think if you think about context, the idea in this case was rather to say that it could be a place somewhere else. You know, if I guess it's the same in Norway, that all the apartments and all the new houses, they have wooden floors or black floors, and they have white walls. And so we thought that perhaps this could be something else, because all the children, they already have that environment at home. And this gets closer to urban planning, where the analysis of a site, the huge extension of a concert hall in central Stockholm. It's a competition we won actually, because we didn't build to the side, and rather added something on top that made the sort of original existing impression of the urban spaces around the building be the same basically, and you had really to raise your view to discover that something's happening, and at the same time offering a completely new space in Stockholm, a public space where there is no such elevated platform to get a view of Stockholm today. And this is just to give an idea about an interior project. The turn of the century, last turn of the century building that had been completely changed in this apartment. It was destroyed, and we asked ourselves, how could this building be, how could this apartment be restored, but to not trying to make it go back in time and create all the details and stuccos, etc., that existed in this apartment, but rather to find a new way to combine industrial ways of producing building material with a kind of a worked and well-crafted expression. And finally, before we go into the Tree Hotel, here's a few projects that are on site now. It's a housing project. This one was driven by the idea of a sustainable and energy, it's a low energy concept where these deep buildings both create a very small exterior envelope, but at the same time also could relate to the vast space. It's sitting on a lake in Jönköping, in Sweden. And then a project that we are starting up right now, it's new buildings for a School of Art and Architecture in Denmark. Also, spatially offering something that would complement the existing buildings that dates from, well, actually spans over 500 years. The first building is more or less a castle from the 16th century, and then there are additions as late as a few years ago by Japanese and American architects. But all in small scale and sort of offering different kind of atmospheres and environments. The most ambitious project to date is the new School of Architecture in Stockholm. It's a competition that we won in 2007. and it's on site now. And it also, by necessity, connects very, very closely to the existing buildings. They are all protected, so that was part of the competition, how to insert such a massive program on the site. And we decided it had to be a separate building, first of all, not to sort of hurting or hitting the other buildings. And then, well, this is the upcoming roof terrace in the view. And then, given the site and the geometry of the site, we tried to fit in the program. And we realized that the best way to do it was rather to, a bit like in the nursery school, the yellow building, to use a geometry that would sort of link or create spaces that interact and connect to each other, rather like in a landscape than in a traditional institutional building where you would find that long corridor and the orthogonal system. And you get an idea of the interior spaces here. Next year they will start using that building. And the most recently completed project is a house, and I think this one actually connects to the Tree Hotel in a way, because it's also a place that was more or less a botanical garden, and we decided to use an organic material or an organic architectural layout, but without the curves. So the blocks would sort of just place themselves among the trees. And as you can see, it's a building that will stand for a very long time, and which is very interesting, I think, when you think about sustainability. In the end, it will be a very sustainable building, even though, of course, it took some time to build it. And as you can see, the nature comes very close. Okay, but I think 5 minutes is perfect for the Tree Hotel. So it's a small building. I think you will understand. So, well, yeah, you can see the kind of botanical garden quality that this site has. The Tree Hotel, for us, when we were asked, you know, what is it you want when you come up here? And of course, it's the conditions of the north and sort of the challenge and there's a notion of both beauty, but also perhaps something that is dangerous. And we have, as Mats mentioned, worked also with the Kiruna project. And I think this is very interesting if you think about the end result. It's a unique moment, I think, where you know exactly how many people will move, you know exactly which buildings has to be moved, and it's actually just about 4,000 people. So it's not a Chinese town with 1 million. So in that case, it was actually possible to have a vision of the end result and rather use that as a cornerstone to then, if you could grow to 50,000 people, which is unlikely as far as we know, that would be possible, of course, because there's a lot of land. The inspiring things about the north is, except apart from the nature, is of course the way that you and the Sami people and also I think the farmers and fishermen, that the way they relate to the site and to the landscape, and the idea of a building that you actually use, and when it's used you bury it. It's all made out of nature, so it can go back to nature when it's used. This was our idea for the Laponia Visitor Center. One of the things were that you couldn't touch the ground, so this system of boardwalks that had to be laid out so that the tourists wouldn't hurt the 1,000-year-old forests was something that we used to create this tent-like shape. The other thing with the Tree Hotel was that it's a refuge, of course. It's somewhere where you can sit and sort of observe the world. You're hidden, you're sort of in a dream. And the last thing is that we also observed, which is a bit contradiction somehow, that when we approach pristine nature and wilderness, we tend to bring these things. super advanced gear, protection, insulation, etc. So we thought this could be something we used. This contrast between blending in completely, disappearing, but also standing out or using sort of high-tech solutions to achieve this. And so the idea was to put this box, this 4x4x4 meters, on the tree, and to access either via a rope ladder or a bridge. And this is actually how it was done. The program is super simple. It's just a one-bedroom place. It's a bed, small sitting area, entrance, and there's a hidden roof terrace that you can access via the interior. And these are studies. We were thinking about how to attach the building to the tree. And as you can see, perfect. The idea was that from the outside, you couldn't really tell where the windows are, but from the inside you can. And this is also an example of where the local know-how. Harads is a town of perhaps 75 or 175 people, and you drive across Harads in 30 seconds. And still, we managed to find these craftsmen that produced the building, and we collaborated with two different engineers, one that calculated the tree, and one that calculated the structure of the building. And so in the end, it was not produced in Stockholm or somewhere else in the world and shipped over here. It was locally produced and driven to the site in two parts and then mounted. As Mats mentioned, it's a strange project because it's one of the smallest we made, but it's also a project that sort of started its own travel across the world. And so there has been a lot of people visiting it. And as you can see, the interior comes out quite close to what we envisaged. There's only 3 clamps instead of 10 that we thought. And when the night comes, you start to guess where the windows are. The glass used is a high reflective glass, but it's not completely reflective. And it disappears. Thank you.
Hello, you hear me? Yes, yeah. Okay, thank you. We have in music, we have a bridge. We have a bridge here because the Tree Hotel is the bridge. Sami Rintala has also made a project, the latest with their name called Dragonfly. So you know it's a very, very good place. Sami Rintala, he's from Finland, educated architect from Helsinki. Now he's living in Bodø, the north of Norway. He's an architect and an artist. He began with an office with the Casa Grande and Rintala. Today his office is Rintala Egertsson. And I recognized him the first time about the year 2000. They had made an art project with uplifted barns in the nature, and it finished that we were burning up them totally. And my favorite of his projects is the Forest Observatory in Japan. It's in a bamboo forest, some concrete constructions in order to listen to the birds. That's the thing, making poetry of architecture. Okay, Sami, the word is yours. Until 11 o'clock.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Thanks. Can you hear me? No? Yeah. Yes. I'm here to make a sauna, a mobile sauna with students. That's my main reason to be here. So we agreed yesterday that we we don't have a lecture, but now I heard that I do, so let's have a lecture now. So hello, how are you? My name is Sami, and I found a lecture in my laptops which I'm going to have to you. And my lecture was supposed to be called Culture in Minimal Landscape, and I was trying to refer to a SALT project we are at the moment just opened in Bodø area where I live. But if you fly Norwegian back, the planes with red front, they have a flight magazine which presents that project with 5 pages at the moment. So you can check that. We created structures for to house music, art, and good food and bathing, sauna, world's biggest sauna for 120 persons. So we call them the 4 pillars of civilization. So they are now on the beach near Bodø. Yeah, I was having this lecture in another place, but our office is called Nordkalottsymposium and Architects, and we are 3 persons, the kind of co-founders, like it finally says. And this gentleman on the right is David Rekkertsson and his wife Vibeke Jensen, and then myself, and we represent by chance 3 Nordic countries at the same time. This is where we come from and live at the moment. So it's a kind of stretch in the Nordic countries. Here we are. I'm saying sometimes it rains in our office because we like to work outside and build things, not to stay in the office and look at the computer screen so much. So we like to say also that the dirty hands are nice to have. And build things. This is some projects we have done today. We are coming from north, like I said, and now we don't see anything of this, of course, this slide, but there's a world map somewhere there, and just showing how many people are living where in the world. So our problems here in the north are very different from Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur. So we are dealing with a lot of space and a lot of nature and a lot of resources. So our way of thinking is therefore quite different from architects from those areas. One important guideline for us is that we want to work in the edges, control centers. We think that there's no more this kind of worldview where there's things are either global or local. We think that in every locality there's global thinking in the core as well. So people in Vardö and Vadsö are as informed about the global issues as people in New York. So there's no, you can do the same things everywhere nowadays because of the information flow and people are also traveling a lot, constantly, maybe too much already. So it doesn't really matter where you do your projects, they can handle global issues as well. At the same time, we like to do things site-specifically and like to make a correlation between language and architecture, or even dialect and architecture. And that followingly, wherever we make a project, we would like to know the local building tradition, the local dialect of building. And why we do it is because at the moment we are becoming similar. Our cultures and civilizations are merging into each other. Because 100 years ago we had still 16,000 languages or civilizations or cultures. Today we have 6,000, and they say in 100 years' time there will be 1,000 left. So we are losing the biodiversity of humanity very rapidly. And that's why if you are building in Kirkenes, you should build following the local climate, building tradition and local materials, combining those somehow, instead of taking an idea from Netherlands or Japan and bring it here, take a copy of that. And that, because that is the monoculture way. So we should rather make things in North that other people come here to look at and copy, instead of copying automatically things that are done in Oslo, Stockholm, or Helsinki, for instance. Because that is our responsibility as makers and designers, is to make something that is rooted in the place. There's examples of Karelia, where my family comes from, where the houses were built in a certain way that animals were creating heat here and warming the rooms. And when one family started, then the next generation would move onwards. So the house became longer and longer. It's an interesting idea. So for us, these kind of buildings, they are really biological acts by an animal called human being. And that we still continue being part of nature while we are building. And this is all kind of other animals are making their shelters, and we still continue to do ours, and should do them differently in different locations. And that still there's a need, a biological need to be sheltered. So when we make this sauna now in the courtyards, it is a shelter in the end, a shelter against very cold climate. And you want to go in and become warm. At the same time, you want to have a control of the surroundings, overview, and this combination of being sheltered and having overview is for every living creature who wants to position themselves in the best possible location and have this overview and shelter. We call the overview nice landscape or sea view, but it's actually a biological need. And for us, the word primitive is a very positive word, because something that is primitive or primal is something that is actually important, which stays the same. And somebody even says it's remaining in pure state, uncorrupted by civilization. And what does corrupted by civilization mean then? We are being accused sometimes or called primitive architects, and I kind of like that nowadays already. I have an iPhone and I use computer programs to make my design, but I think that the primitive culture kind of try to find out the primitive culture of the location and imitate it in the idea, not the form, is much more interesting for me than to try to see the surface and the shouting of the advanced modern culture there, which comes anyway from somewhere else. So we think that primitive can also be very much more precise and something that we actually need more than the easiness of life. Because we tend to look at the world when we are coming from a Western, educated, industrial, rich and democratic country. Our filter of seeing things, what is good and what is bad, can be weird. So we shouldn't believe our worldview automatically. We are weird people in a world's and kind of bigger perspective. These are some projects we did with the Gabo in the beginning when we were still studying in Helsinki, using glass kind of installations made of wood, studying. It was kind of showing the way what we are doing today. You can see very much interest in craftsmanship already, and then starting to make first artworks that also were commenting politically the location. This was in East Finland, that is empty of people more or less nowadays, in North Karelia. So we thought that even the houses should follow the people to the cities, so they should have legs and more, so we call landscape. And then there was a dancer that burned the buildings. We have to make permission drawings as well, because we are architects for the building like this. And after that we have done similar installations in Venice Biennale. House built that was also a garden. But the point being that the garden was filled with shit. It was a big compost, like saying that you shouldn't put the shit in the lagoon, but you could make a beautiful garden out of it. And even the boat was recycled. We found it and it was half drowned, so we could use it. So we repair the boat, wake it, so it floats, make the garden again. In Oslo, libraries that are flying for migration. And Japan installation. Korea. I'm jumping a little bit because I want to show something in the end. Small home in Oslo. This was commenting the prices of small houses, apartments in Oslo, because they are just too expensive for students or young couples to have. So we made a very cheap one with my friends, and it's 19 square meters and much cheaper. But again, while the exterior is a very streamlined, kind of modernistic, the interior is a primeval barn house interior made of wood, which makes a kind of calm feeling. This project used to be under our feet some years ago when we heard that there's a hotel coming here, so the local cultural program called the union called Viken for Bruen was asking for an artwork here. But we suggested that let's make something useful rather than an artwork. And a small hotel was accepted as a program. So this hotel was trying to say before this hotel came that the hotel could be a very site-specific project. Kirkenes is a quite small town, but it has a very interesting location in the crossroads of these traffics from different civilizations, if you want. And that the hotel could also be small and clever, like Kirkenes is. And it looks like a sea container with the letter H as a tag saying this is a hotel. And it had one room, single room, and a double room, and a lobby. But unfortunately we had to move away because the real hotel came and we didn't have a long contract from the municipality, so we had to again get rid of this in a quick way. The client seems to be happy as well. So we are. I'm a professor in NTNU in Trondheim as well, and I take my students very often to build things that are useful, and it's always an educational task for them. They learn how things are built, and at the same time there's a useful end result hopefully. This was in Thailand. We made a school building for kids. We stayed 10 days, we designed 2 days and built 8 days. Here we tried to make a sauna in 4 days, and that's almost done now. So I hope in the near future we can use the mobile sauna which is standing there. But this one was in Aarhus, a public sauna for kayak paddlers that we also constructed on an old hotel. So we are kind of building many saunas for some reason, but I don't mind being a sauna, primitive sauna architect. But we also make bridges, like in West Norway. This is not supposed to be a catalogue of our projects, but I happen to have this. We could talk about something else, but this is a bridge where you can listen to the river. That's the idea. So being site-specific means that there's a room where you can listen to the water in this bridge. But otherwise, it's just a bridge made of steel. We don't usually use steel or concrete, but in this climate area in West Norway, they said that the wood would rot quite soon because it's very moist here. The rabbits is smelling things. This project is in Seljord. It's a viewing tower for the sea monster in the lake of Seljord. That every Norwegian knows that there's, like in Loch Ness, they have their own sea monster. So we were building a tower where they can watch this sea monster. But unfortunately, the lake went much bigger at some point, so when we were going to the building site, we had to go by boat. So it really looked like a sea monster tower itself. But now it looks like this. And we had to make a walkway in the end. This is, by the way, very nice landscape that is in Seljord. Yeah. No, that's you. Estea, sorry. Estea landscape architects make this pathway system. But the whole building is made of wood and functions as a bird viewing tower actually, much more than a monster viewing tower. But in the night time we also have a nice light system with red lights here, so it looks like a big lantern in the landscape. One of the latest projects, the site visit project, is also in a cold climate, but in the middle of Europe, in the mountains of Austria, and they wanted to have a bus stop. So there was 8 architects, and every one of them made one bus stop. We thought it was a bit boring task, so we wanted to have some spices, and there was a tennis court on the left-hand side, so we wanted to make a tennis watching stadium, kind of stadium structure, and the bus stop in the same. So it became a little bit more interesting. One of my dreams to Bodø area, Nordlands, and why not here as well, is that when I was in Austria, I saw how the local carpenters, wood producers, architects, and builders were working together to make very good wooden architecture, so that everybody always know where the material comes from and what it can be used, and who is the best guy to make floor, who is the best guy to make roof, and so on. So there's a constant nice competition about being the best in the wooden craftsmanship, but you also know who makes the best forest in a way, and so on, for which purpose. And in North Norway, you have all these possibilities there. Yes, and I'm kind of thinking that I wonder how many years it would take to raise the level of understanding that one could create a wooden culture of building, so that everybody profits. People start using more wood for their houses, and there's a constant repair. You have to, every 10 years, you have to replace this or that or remake something, so the carpenters will have work. So it's a kind of local resistance to industrial ways of building. But it's very difficult because now everybody is locked in the other system and think that's the best system. But it's not really so. So I think if you go to Austria, to Vorarlberg region here in Switzerland, you will see something which is really interesting. It's a primitive culture that actually takes care of itself without being relying on everybody else's help all the time. Products coming with the truck, they make everything themselves. It's biologically a very clever thing, because if you unplug the society of electricity and information and transport, you can think how many days it goes without personal food, and nobody can. What can you do? Can you build a shelter for yourself and so on? I'm not going into details other than this salt and pepper. So this is what we have been working recently with. We made a big structure on the beach near Bodø, Sandmonet, where Yang Fudong, a Chinese artist, made a fantastic video installation in this fish rack structure, which is looking big, but when you look at the landscape, it's actually very, very small. And of course, sauna, we made a small sauna with the Sami architect Juha Nango, who is putting the fire on the right-hand picture. And some cottages where the people can sleep when they are there, so this is kind of landcraft walking in the beach. And also a permanent building called Pepper, which was salt, and this is pepper. So that's a sketch, but it actually looks like that. It's ready today. This is an old lecture. It houses toilets and showers and recycling center for people who visit the beach. So the festival, for instance, doesn't litter the beach. Now it's under construction here. There are some guidelines what we try to include to our projects every time. Not that we always succeed, but we try to do these things so we can read while we have some questions and finish. Thank you for your kind listening.
We can take some very short, quick questions, both to Sami and Bolle. If anyone have any questions.
Yeah, I forgot to say that I'm really happy to have a lecture of the Bolle, which is my favorite architect. So architect in Scandinavia. When I become big, I become like him.
We are very happy to that you are in the same session. Final session. Yes. Okay. Any questions?
It's can you hear me? It's maybe a little bit a question, maybe just a...
Yes. and maybe an observation, but when you say primitive, and especially when you showed the picture of the cakes, I was thinking, isn't it in a way that the consumer culture, which is dominating in the Western world today, is in fact primitive compared to a lot of indigenous culture, which is your other picture there, because the what you term there advanced culture is really only about satisfying desires on a very basic level, doing the easiest thing. And when a lot of people do the easiest thing, you get very, very extreme consequences, like we do with our depletion of resources, etc. But that McDonald's, in a way, is more primitive because it's just about basic desires.
But then your primitive is a very negative word. That's what I'm trying to say. Like for me, it's the opposite. For me, primitive means that you can eat and save the cake, while here you just eat it. But they know how to save the cake while they are eating it.
It's a rhetorical argument, really, but I'm thinking, and you have experience, I'm sure, but what is more efficient? Is it when you call the primitive advanced or when you call the advanced primitive?
Yeah.
In a way, I'm out to diss consumer culture a little bit by calling it primitive. That's all.
I'm part of the consumer culture myself, and it's a very difficult thing to be anything else. But I'm just trying to think that it's a very dangerous path, because if you read a book by Jared Diamond, the social anthropologist, called The Collapse, it's interesting reading for architects. He's, for instance, pointing out that every culture, civilization that collapsed because of the overuse of their own limited resources. At that time it was limited because they were on an island or in the jungle, but now it's the whole globe. Every given civilization that collapsed, just before collapse, they always build higher and higher things, structures, without any reasons that we can understand today. Because there was space to build them scarcely and so on. So it's very interesting things that we are kind of repeating the pattern. And then, of course, thinking that it's very advanced because there's the priests that are saying that this is right. The bankers are all the priests, and they are saying they are guiding everything by saying that the stock markets, if they go down, everything goes down. And so it's like weather. They are predicting that the stock is going down here, and we are like this. Yeah, that's the religion now, and we are following that and building things for that, and believing that that's the only way of existing on this planet. So it's interesting to read of parallel civilizations. It's my hobby now. How things could be done actually with the same amount of knowledge and things we have. But, of course, we can't stand outside ourselves. Learn to live with it.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Yep.
I'd like to go at the how you see your I ask Polletam, how you see your background on the architectural tradition, which is important for you, because the buildings are, for me, not so typical Swedish architects.
So, how do I see
your background as architect? What kind of architectural tradition is important for you?
Okay, I think the architectural tradition, whether it's Swedish or Nordic or international, it's all part of a common. It's a resource, I think, for inspiration. But what means a lot, I think, to us is an idea about sort of keep where you are. You know, if you happen to be born in Sweden or in Finland, there you can start looking at what you have, next to you, rather than. That would be the first impulse somehow, and then and that is not in opposition to be influenced or sharing ideas with people from other parts of the world. There are so many things we could discuss. I think the two that are very important is one that I think I dropped a little bit between the concept and the craftsmanship of an architect. So I think today we have a problem in international architecture that there is very many people that are very talented producing strong concepts, and then only a few of those are actually put into work, so that some are just built as concepts and some are built as buildings or architecture. And this journey from the idea to that's an incredible opportunity to refine and to get into materiality and to make a building have a meaning and presence in relation to its immediate context, but perhaps also for a wider context. So that's one thing, and that's an issue we can discuss. The other thing is that if you're clear enough, if you're making a statement, your building is clear enough, then it can also be understood in many different ways. And I think very often architecture that is strong enough is seen upon as a as a sort of mono music. It's not interesting enough. It's not layered enough. But I think it could be layered and complex, but still very, very clear. And then you can read it to understand it in different ways. Because I mean, when the building is there, talking about the end result, the building stands for itself. So whether you have ideas about why it looks this way or that way, that's not very important. What's important is how people understand it or react. So the physical and emotional and cultural reactions are what's important.
Okay, thank you. The time is running very fast. It's 11:05. 5 minutes past 11. In 10 minutes time, we will stand online here waiting for the bus. Okay?